Hey Pokemon champions, what's going on? It's Champion Darkblaze here. Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we are going to be talking about what I believe to be the 10 hardest Pokemon to battle in the main series. Now, this is not going to be a definitive or objective list of what the top 10 hardest Pokemon to battle actually are. Rather, this is going to be my subjective personal list of Pokemon that I personally had the most difficult time battling in any of the main series games. Now, this of course can range from any particular Pokemon or battle across all 8 generations, from Red and Blue to modern day Sword and Shield. But this list will be ranging from anything it being fair game, whether that is a random trainer battle, whether it is the very first rival battle with your starter Pokemon, a champion battle, etc, etc. So be sure to leave down in the comments below what you personally believe to be the 10 hardest Pokemon to battle in the games are down in the comments below. And with that being said, here's my personal list of the hardest Pokemon I've ever battled in any of the Pokemon games, and I will be including side games such as Colosseum and XD Gale of Darkness. With that being said, let's get into it. So Pokemon champions, the very first Pokemon we're going to be talking about is infamous for crushing people's dreams in the Johto region. That is number 10, Whitney's Miltank. Now of course there's many reasons why people hate Whitney's Miltank, myself included. Now, to be fair, I never used to hate Whitney's Miltank. The first time I ever battled it was in Heart Gold, and at that point I didn't have the hardest time against Miltank. But back in about 2017 or 2018, I played Pokemon Silver for the very first time, and it's a very different experience going up against Miltank in Gen 2 versus Generation 4. There's just something about the Gen 2 setup of the game, or the playstyle, or the way the games were made overall, that just makes Whitney's Miltank seem like a bigger threat in those games, and I actually lost 1 or 2 Pokemon at the time in the game battling Whitney's Miltank, and it was just a travesty of a time trying to take it down. Of course, it's known for having Attract, Rollout, Milk Drink, and Defense Curl, so it makes it incredibly tough to beat this Miltank, plus you probably don't even have any super effective moves against it, which I did not. But for all these reasons, I've got to give the number 10 spot to Miltank, and only number 10, because personally I found a lot of other Pokemon a lot more challenging than Whitney's devil of a Miltank. Number 9 is going to be Primal Dialga from Explorers of Time, Pokemon Mystery Dungeon. Now, I said I was including side games, and I know I didn't mention Mystery Dungeon earlier, but it's fair game because it technically is a side game. It's a spin-off. Primal Dialga is without a doubt one of the most difficult Pokemon to battle throughout the entirety of Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Explorers of Sky. I remember playing that game, and Primal Dialga is just a monstrous threat. And there's 2 different times that you can battle it. Story mode plus the special episode mode that you can access later on. And Primal Dialga is just insanely powerful. One, it's got the classic Steel Dragon typing that Dialga is known for. And on top of it, it has moves like Metal Claw, which is later replaced by, I think, Dragon Claw. It has access to a signature move, Roar of Time, and a couple other moves that just make it monstrously difficult to actually defeat. You can be using all your items and your seeds and everything in your bag, and even your strongest moves, but Primal Dialga will resist all of it and stand up to it. It takes quite a while to actually defeat this Pokemon, and I just remember having the most hardest time going up against Primal Dialga, so it sits at number 9. Coming in at number 8 is going to be from Pokemon Emerald, Watton's Manectric. Now you're probably thinking, what on earth makes a Manectric stronger than Whitney's devilish Miltank or even the legendary Primal Dialga? Well, I will give you 2 words to answer that question. Shock Wave. In the Pokemon games, Shockwave is an electric type move, one of the weaker ones, but it does not miss. If you're one of the OG kind of early fans of this channel, you will know that long ago I started a Pokemon Emerald Let's Play. Not a Nuzlocke, just a regular Let's Play, because I've never gone through Generation 3, and to this day I still haven't finished that Let's Play, but I will hopefully sometime this year or even in the near future. But in that Let's Play, we have to battle Watton, as everyone does in the Hoenn games. And Manectric was just a terrible Pokemon to go up against because it knew Shockwave. And I did not know at the time that Shockwave was a move that could not miss. My strategy in the game was to level up Tailo into a Swellow. I taught Swellow Double Team and Aerial Ace, a flying type move that I know doesn't miss, but I was spamming Double Team because it becomes a broken move when you spam it 4 times. But I was just wondering, with my high evasiveness, why Shockwave was still hitting every single member on my team. And later, very long later down the road, I realized Shockwave does not miss. And with no counter to electric types except for Mud Slap on my Aeron, which fainted early on, I did not have any type advantage whatsoever over any of the Pokemon on Watson's teams. It was probably one of the most difficult battles in all of my Emerald Let's Play, except for another that we will get to later on this list. But for all these reasons, Manectric was a terribly strong Pokemon, plus it's fully evolved only in the 3rd gym, and it was just a terrible Pokemon to go up against. So Manectric, I gotta give it the number 8 spot. Coming in at number 7 is the other Pokemon that was a nightmare in my Pokemon Emerald playthrough that you may know about, and that is going to be Winona's Altaria. This thing is a terrible bird Pokemon dragon type thing that I hate with a passion, and I've hated it ever since the defeats that it gave me in Pokemon Emerald. Now you're probably thinking, what on earth makes Altaria so darn difficult? I will give you 2 more words to answer that question as well. Dragon Dance. Any competitive Pokemon player knows the absolute importance and vitality of using the move Dragon Dance. Dragon Dance is a move that will give you a bonus to your attack and your speed on the Pokemon that uses it. And this is a common setup move on many Pokemon, not just of the Dragon typing. So when you have this strong, fully evolved fluffy bird dragon thing using Dragon Dance not just once, not twice, not 3 times, 4 or 5 times, spamming it, raising its attack and speed, it outspeeds and obliterates everything on my team. I fought Winona twice, and it did not go well. Now I did fight Winona only twice because I ended up having a better team by the time I got to her versus when I got to Watson, who I fought 3 times to get the Dynamo badge. But Winona is still just a terrible person to go up against in Pokemon Emerald. On top of that, having access to other moves such as Earthquake. So if you want to use an electric type against her, which I didn't have, you are still screwed because it will use Earthquake with spammed out Dragon Dance. That's just a nightmare to go up against, and whoever thought it was a good idea to program it into the games, I don't like you. I don't like you, whoever you are. But for these reasons, I'm giving the number 7 spot to Winona's Altaria. At number 6, we're going to go back to another side game, and we're going to be taking a look at the pseudo-legendary of the Johto region, being Tyranitar. In Pokemon Colosseum, at the end of the game, when you're at Realgem Tower going up against Evice, he has a Shadow Tyranitar, the strongest Shadow Pokemon in the game. Now when you fight Evice, there is also a massive level gap between the level of your Pokemon and the level of his, and it is extremely difficult to combat unless you do some grinding at Mountain Battle, which in my last playthrough I did a couple years ago, I ended up having to do some grinding. But what makes Tyranitar so difficult? Now it is a Rock Dark type, which is a very nice typing, but on top of being a pseudo-legendary, the moves that it has, on top of being a Shadow Pokemon, are just absolutely ridiculous. First off, this Pokemon has Blizzard, which in Colosseum and XD Gala Darkness, and even in the main series games, is a move that hits both of your Pokemon, and since Colosseum and XD are designed for double battles throughout the entirety of the game, Blizzard is a terrible move to deal with. On top of it, it also knows Rock Slide, which is another move that hits both of your Pokemon. And it's got Thunder, but let's talk about its more troubling move, Shadow Rush. In Colosseum, Shadow Rush is the only Shadow move available to any Shadow Pokemon. However, what makes this move so dangerous is that when you couple it with Tyranitar's base stat total, along with its giant level gap above your Pokemon, Shadow Rush is a dangerously devastating move. In the game's Colosseum and XD Gala Darkness, Shadow moves are super effective against anything that they touch. Shadow is a type super effective against everything, including Dragon types. So if you were to bust out a dragon type at that point in the game, which you can because you can use a Flygon like I did, even your Flygon would be suffering super effective damage from this Tyranitar. So combined with the high level, being a pseudo-legendary, having an amazing base stat total, yeah, Tyranitar is a monster to try and defeat, and you are definitely going to have to spend quite a few hours doing some grinding at Mount Battle if you even want to stand a chance at taking down Evice and his Tyranitar, not to mention his 5 other Pokemon. So I'm giving the number 6 spot to Tyranitar. Just cracking the top 5 is going to be from Diamond, Pearl, and Platinum. You know what this entry is. We're going to be talking about the infamous Garchomp from Cynthia, the champion of the Sinnoh region. Now, before you grab your pitchforks and go putting hate down in the comments, let me just explain why Garchomp is only number 5 and not in the top 3. As we all know, Garchomp is one of the best pseudo-legendaries ever introduced into the game. It is a dragon ground type, it has got monstrous and ferocious powerful attack stats, and it's got a nice moveset to deal with any of its weaknesses, including the nice Earthquake, and I believe it even has Flamethrower, as well as Dragon Rush. When you put all of Garchomp's moves together, combined with its attack stats and total base stat total, Garchomp is a horrible threat to defeat. I've definitely had my fair share of teams go up against Cynthia at various points over the years, and Garchomp always makes any team I bring suffer. It always knocks out at least one Pokemon, unless I do happen to be a couple levels higher than her Garchomp. Garchomp will totally obliterate anything that cannot deal a super effective move against it. So unless you bring an ice type or you bring a water type and it's got Ice Beam or Stab Ice Beam, or you bring your own dragon with some dragon super effective damage, then you're gonna have a very hard time against Garchomp no matter what Pokemon you are using. So Garchomp makes for a difficult battle any time around. Any Sinnoh player knows this. So for these reasons, Garchomp is taking the number 5 spot. Number 4 is going to go to a group of Pokemon, and it's going to be a 3-way tie, because in this entry we're going back to the side games and in the Ore region with XD Gale of Darkness. The Pokemon that take the number 4 spot are the legendary birds. No, not these guys, not these new ones, the old ones. We're talking about the OG Zapdos, Moltres, and Articuno. In XD Gale of Darkness, when you get to the final boss battle, they are a major pain in the butt to deal with, but let me explain why they're even tougher than Cynthia's almighty Garchomp. Now of course, when you're taking on the legendary birds, they are shadow Pokemon first and foremost in Pokemon XD Gale of Darkness. So on top of catching Shadow Lugia with your Master Ball, you are also going up against 3 other shadow Pokemon in this battle, and on top of it, he even leads with, I believe, 2 of the legendary birds. So it's 2 shadow Pokemon at once, as legendaries no less. The moves that Shadow Moltres, Zapdos, and Articuno have access to are Shadow Fire, Shadow Chill, and Shadow Bolt. And of course, as we mentioned with the Tyranitar entry, Shadow moves are super effective against anything that they touch. So even if you bring Pokemon like Walrein or Ampharos to try and deal with the legendary birds and deal super effective damage, even using a move like Rock Slide against them, it's still going to be a very, very tough fight. They are legendaries, they have legendary stats, they are also shadow Pokemon, and they're going to be dealing more damage than you are probably going to give to them. And on top of it, mix that with other moves like Shadow Shed and Shadow Sky and Shadow Blast. All 4 of the legendary birds give you a big run for your money in Pokemon XD Gale of Darkness. So they are taking the number 4 spot. The bronze medal, number 3, is gonna go to Sword and Shield, our first Generation 8 entry, Leon's Charizard. Now, Charizard is definitely one of the Pokemon that made a mark in 2020 and even in 2019 at the tail end when Sword and Shield actually got released. Of course, we all know that Game Freak just loves to give Charizard the spotlight with 2 Megas, now it's Gigantamax form, but when we talk about Leon's Gigantamax Charizard and its special move G-Max Wildfire, yeah, Leon's Charizard is not to mess with at all. But let's talk about why we shouldn't mess with Gigantamax Charizard. First, let's just take a look at its moveset, okay? Leon's Gigantamax Charizard, and even in its normal form, has access to the moves Fire Blast, Air Slash, Ancient Power, and Solar Beam. So when you have these 4 moves, even if you brought a Water type, it is still going to give you a run for your money. I would like to mention that when Isle of Armor got released, I chose Squirtle, so I have access to G-Max Blastoise, and when I went and re-challenged the league, let me tell you, G-Max Blastoise versus G-Max Charizard is quite the sight to see. But before looking it up for this video, I never knew what grass type move Charizard could have access to. I thought, is it Leech Seed? Is it something like Razor Leaf or Grass Knot for some reason? I didn't know what grass type move this thing could actually have. I didn't know Charizard could even get a grass type move until it freaking used G-Max Overgrow against me and totally obliterated the Pokemon I sent out, which was my Dreadnought, which means it was 4 times weak to G-Max Overgrow. Yeah, thanks a lot, Leon. So honestly, G-Max Charizard is just a terrible threat to go up against. It gives you such a hard time to defeat it in the champion battle of Pokemon Sword and Shield. Coming in at number 2 is going to be Hop's Zacian, our second entry from Sword and Shield. Now, of course, it's a legendary Pokemon, so it's definitely going to provide a challenge, but why specifically Hop's Zacian? Well, let me tell you why Hop's Zacian is such a pain in the butt to defeat. Let me tell you, first off, it's level 70, okay? So it's already higher level than probably your entire team in the final battle that Hop offers to you at the end of the game. Hop is also the first rival character to own a legendary Pokemon in the main story of the game, or even just the post-game. Hop is the first character outside of you that really has access to a legendary Pokemon, aside from Gladion, because, I mean, he didn't catch a mascot legendary, but he has Soul Ally, so I guess it technically counts. But Zacian is Fairy Fighting, or is it Steel Fairy? It's one or the other. But Zacian is Fairy Fighting, and that is a very deadly type combination to have, because also, it's got Behemoth Blade. Behemoth Blade is, of course, Zacian's signature move, and it's absolutely terrible. Absolutely terrible. It decimates every single Pokemon that is on your team, and if you don't have a counter for it, if you don't have anything super effective, your team is going down. Let me tell you, I lost to Hop at least 5 or 6 times in a row before I found out, okay, nothing on my team is going to beat him unless I'm over leveled, or at least the same level as Zacian and have better strategies against him. I stopped battling Hop for a straight week in Sword and Shield and took the time to go and fill out my Pokedex. And by doing so, I got experience. I participated in raids, and I got a lot of experience candy that I fed to all the members on my team so I could actually go and defeat Zacian. Now you're probably wondering, Champion Darkblaze, the battle is so much easier if you just use Zamazenta and Behemoth Bash. You will easily defeat Zacian. Ah, but here's the thing, my friend. I wanted to win against Hop without using a legendary Pokemon. Ever since Generation 7, I have opted to not use legendary Pokemon at all on my team, because in Generation 4 onward, I used Dialga, Zekrom, and Yveltal on my team, my main team, in the playthrough of those games at the tail end of the journey. So in Generation 8, I really wanted to beat Hop's Zacian without having to rely on a legendary Pokemon, whether that be Eternatus or Zamazenta. But when I finally beat Hop and his bloody Zacian that was such a pain to defeat, I finally defeated him, and it was all the more sweeter knowing I did it without having to rely on a legendary Pokemon. So that is actually why Zacian takes the number 2 spot, because it just obliterates. It outspeeds, gets an attack bonus, uses Sword Dance, and just plows through anything that is on your team. So I had to grind it. Later on, I actually ended up defeating Zacian. So it takes the runner-up spot on the list. Now, before we get into the number 1 spot, I do want to give just a couple honorable mentions, and this is going to go to Eternamax Eternatus, as well as Dragonite and Charizard owned by Lance in Gold and Silver and Heart Gold Soul Silver, but we're going to focus more on the previous one. Now, of course, anyone who has played Sword and Shield, we all know how strong Eternamax Eternatus is. It has the highest base stat total of any Pokemon in the game. Anything. Those stats are disgustingly powerful. But on top of it, it's only getting an honorable mention and not an actual spot on the list because this is taken down in raid battle format. You battle alongside Hop and his double, along with Zacian and Zamazenta, therefore the battle does become a bit easier because Zacian and Zamazenta are legendary going up against Eternamax Eternatus. Now that's not to say the battle isn't hard, but I didn't feel like I personally struggled against it. Now it was difficult, yeah, it's bound to be difficult, but I just didn't find anything that really made it worthy of getting a spot on this list. It didn't make me go, ugh, I can't freaking defeat this thing. But it does deserve an honorable mention. I'm also going to talk about Lance's Dragonite and Charizard from Gold and Silver. Now, of course, Lance has 3 under-level Dragonite that really shouldn't be allowed to be Dragonite. Maybe he cheated. And he's also got a Charizard, a dragon that really isn't a dragon, but it should be a dragon, and it looks like a dragon. It's a dragon. But the reason I'm saying that these 2 Pokemon are so darn difficult to defeat is, one, they have access to Hyper Beam, which I believe in Generation 2, at least in Generation 1, Hyper Beam doesn't need time to recharge if you knock out a Pokemon with it, and I believe that's what happened to me. On top of it, they use Fire Blast, Thunder, and Ice Beam, also using Dragon Rage against you, which, if you are in low enough health, below 40, it'll just knock you out. And they're pseudo-legendary. Also, Charizard was difficult to defeat because I had no healing items by the time I got to Charizard, and the same can be said for Dragonite as well. These Pokemon were just extremely difficult. The first time I went through the Elite Four in Gold and Silver, I made it to the end. It was difficult, but on top of it, I just ran out of healing items, so I was going through Lance just guns a-blazing, going up against them, and eventually they just knocked me out and I ended up losing. They are quite difficult to take down. I mean, they are on a champions team after all. But with that being said, why don't we roll on into the number 1 spot and see what is the absolute strongest Pokemon that gave me the most difficult battle. We are going into Generation 7 for spot number 1, and you probably already know what it is. It is Ultra Necrozma. This disgusting thing made by Game Freak. I'm kidding, it's actually a very cool Pokemon. It's absolutely amazing. But this disgusting thing made by Game Freak is a nightmare to go up against. The biggest thing that goes for this Pokemon as to why it's such a hard battle is that you don't know that it's coming. It is one of the very few things in any of the main series games that actually catches you off guard. Now, you can go back to Generation 1 and say that if you go west of Viridian City and find that optional rival battle, okay, yeah, that actually catches you off guard. Some people actually struggle with that because they don't know it's there. But something like Ultra Necrozma is not even possible to deal with when you don't know it's coming. So many people struggle against this Pokemon, and so many people lose to it. I was actually very fortunate enough to have a well-structured team that I was able to defeat Ultra Necrozma on the very first try. Now, that is not to dismiss the fact that I actually did struggle heavily against this Pokemon. With 167 special attack and regular attack, along with 97 across all of its other stats, this thing is absolutely impossible to defeat without knowing that it's coming, unless you can improvise a nice strategy against it. And on top of it, you don't even know what type it is. So you have to figure out, okay, what's gonna deal super effective damage? The only reason I found out it was a psychic type was because a Decidueye Spirit Shackle move did some super effective damage against it. So I thought, okay, I can use Sinister Arrow Raid to defeat Ultra Necrozma, which is how I won. Now, it's not to say that this battle did not take a lot of full restores, max potions, and revives, and max revives, and a lot of healing, and sacrificing other Pokemon in order to win so that another one could come back out. But honestly, if Decidueye wasn't as high of a level as it was, over 70 I believe, or at least over 60 depending on where Ultra Necrozma is, this is an impossibly tough battle. Whoever thought of putting this into the game, I hate you, but I also love you, because 1, you provide an actual challenge to the newer Pokemon games, but 2, you made it disgustingly challenging. So I love and hate this battle at the same time. But for all these reasons, I'm giving the number 1 spot to Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon's Ultra Necrozma. And there we go, Pokemon champions. Those are, in my opinion, the top 10 hardest Pokemon to battle across any sort of Pokemon game in the franchise. But what did you think of my list? Did you have the same issues I had with these Pokemon? Or do you have an entirely different list of Pokemon that gave you trouble on your Pokemon journeys? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below and which Pokemon you struggled the most against. With that being said, if you enjoyed, make sure you leave a like and subscribe for more content on Tuesdays and Fridays. But with that being said, I'll be back with another video soon, and until then, train hard, Pokemon champions. I'll catch you guys later.